Are you an international seafarer who's tired of his long contracts and dreaming a stable life in Australia? Then this video is for you. In this video, I will tell you all the options you have if you want to migrate and work as a marine engineer in Australia. So make sure you watch till the end so you don't miss out any important details. Thinking of moving to Australia but don't know how to start? Hi, I am Mohit Prabhakar. I am an AMSA Class 2 marine engineer. I sailed internationally for 7 years before moving to Australia about 3 years ago. And since then, many seafarers have asked me the same question. How did you manage to move to Australia, get your permanent residency and enter the marine industry here? So I decided to make some videos to guide you step by step through the entire process. So if this is the journey you want to follow, let's see your options. So let's see option number 1, that is through Australian skilled migration system. So the first and most important step is getting your skill assessment done. So if you were originally a mechanical engineer like me, you also have the option to apply through Engineers Australia as a mechanical engineer. So that gives you an edge. You can lodge your EOI separately as a mechanical engineer as well as marine engineer. So if you are wondering what is EOI, I will be explaining that in the later part. So since this video is specifically for marine engineers, you will need to get your skill assessments done through AMSA, that is Australian Maritime Safety Authority. So for this, you will basically need your sea time letter from the company, your updated resume, your bachelor's degree, certificate of competency if you already have, and career episodes based on your experiences. So once you submit, the processing time is like 1 to 3 months. So there is also an fast track option if you want quicker results. So if you want, I can make a separate video on how to apply from AMSA skill assessment. Just let me know. Then your step 2 will be English language test. So for this, you can choose between IELTS and PT Academic. So IELTS is International English Language Testing System and PT is Pearson Test of English Academic. So PT is more Australia based. So you have the option to choose between these two. Now let's understand how points are calculated based on your score. So if you have like IELTS 7 each band, you will get 10 points as you will be having proficient English. And if you have 8 each band, you will be getting 20 points since you have superior English. And same applies for PTE. If you have like proficient 65 plus, that is equivalent to IELTS 7 band, you will get 10 points. And if you have 85 each, you have superior English, that is equivalent to IELTS 8 band, so you will get 20 points. So higher the English score, more points you get, and this can significantly improve your chances of receiving an invitation. Now let's move to step 3, that is NATI. So this one is like optional but recommended. So this is basically an language test from your native language to English. So in this exam, you basically have 2 dialogues between 2 persons who are communicating with each other. So you are basically acting as an interpreter between those 2 persons, explaining the conversation to both individuals. So I was able to score 9 bands in PTE and I also cleared this NATI as well. So if you clear it, you get extra 5 points, which can make a big difference. So step 4 is lodge expression of interest. So next you will be required to lodge your EOI through skill select. So minimum points required is 65, but realistically the higher your points, the better your chances of getting invited. So you can check and calculate your points using the official points calculator from Australian immigration system. Your points are based on multiple factors such as age. For example, you can get up to 25 points depending on your age bracket. Educational qualification. If you have like bachelor degree, that gives you around 15 to 20 points depending on assessment. Then As discussed, English language ability. If you already, as already have told you, if you get 20 points, if you have a superior English. So next is you can also get points for your work experience and other factors. So when you combine all of these, you can estimate your total score. So once you reach 65 points, you are eligible to submit your EOI through Skill Select. But just remember one thing, that higher your points, higher are your chances of getting invitation. So the final step will be visa invitation. Before you can apply for visa, of course, but in this step, like once you receive an invitation, you can apply for one of the visas depending on the invitation you received. So there are various subclasses like subclass 189, 190, 491. So 189 is direct PR, subclass 190 is like state nomination, and you get 5 extra points, and 491 is regional nomination where you will get 15 extra points. So if your base score is 65 points, with 190 visa your effective score becomes 70 points, and for 491 visa your effective score becomes 80 points. So even if your base points are low, applying for state and regional nomination can significantly increase your chances of invitation. 190 is also a direct PR, but in 491 it requires you to live and work in a regional area for 3 years before applying your permanent residency. One benefit of this option is like you can apply for these visas when you receive invitation while being offshore, and once your visa is granted you can just migrate to Australia. So this is the path I followed. If you want, I can make detailed videos on skill assessment, lodging your EOI, and cracking 8 bands in PTE and cracking NATI. Just let me know in the comments section. Now if you believe this option is not for you, let's see the other one. So now we will see option number 2. How can you convert your license to Australian one? So there are two methods of doing it. First method is to obtain a certificate of recognition from AMSA. This option is suitable if you already hold a valid COC from any other country. If you already have a COC, this is a big advantage because you don't need to start from scratch. AMSA will assess and recognize your existing certificate. For this, you basically need sea time letter. Then you need to do STCW short courses in Australia because AMSA doesn't recognize the international ones. And then sit for the orals for the required rank, and then you can obtain your COR. So once this is completed, you become eligible to apply for maritime jobs in Australia, work on an Australian flagged or AMSA compliant vessels. So this is the fastest pathway to enter the Australian maritime industry. Now method 2 is you can always upgrade your COC in Australia. So this is if you are an engineer watchkeeper or class 4 from India or class 5 from countries like Singapore, you can apply for an Australian upgrade program. So you will study in Australia usually around 1 year and then pass your oral examination conducted by AMSA and do your STCW short courses, and finally you can obtain an Australian COC. So after successful completion, you can get Australian class 1 COC or class 2 COC depending upon your progression. So this will make you fully eligible to work in the Australian maritime industry at a higher rank. So these are the two main pathways. So either enter Australia through COR and start working quickly, or upgrade your COC and build a long-term career in Australia. That's completely your choice. If you believe you cannot pursue this option, let's see the other one. So your next option is if you want to come as a student or dependent visa. So this is also a very common option for migrating to Australia. So in this there are two methods. So first method is if you want to come on a student visa. So if you are a marine engineer, already have a COC, you can opt for a course like class 1, class 2 upgrade. Then post that course, you will obtain your temporary residence, that is subclass 485 visa. For this, usually 92 weeks of study is required. So it usually accounts for around 2 years. So you might have to opt in another course after you are finished with your class 1, class 2 course. You can opt for a courses like MBA and or any other course related to your field. So then you can obtain your temporary residence and apply for the maritime jobs in Australia. Just gain some Australian experience, and then you can move to the PR pathway 189, 190, or even 491 as discussed before. So this is also the method many of the students I've seen using it or pursuing it. So second method is student dependent visa. So in this case, what will happen is if you are married, your spouse can take some study in Australia. So you will get a student dependent visa and you can apply for the working rights while you come in Australia. So after obtaining your working rights, your spouse will study while you can work in Australia unlimited. So then you can opt for obtaining your COR as already discussed before, do the required short courses, and then you will be eligible for maritime jobs in Australia. Just gain some Australian experience and you can follow the PR pathway as discussed before. So your next option will be employer sponsorship. As I have told, this is very fast but competitive method of migrating to Australia. So as you know, Australian maritime industry is growing at a rapid pace, and right now there is a shortage of seafarers in Australia. So if you are an experienced seafarer with a certificate of competency, especially if you have class 1 or class 2 COC, or even if you are a chief officer or master or even an experienced rating, you should consider these options. So you just apply for the jobs in Australia, and if the company is willing to sponsor you, you already have the experience, so and company has the requirement, so they can sponsor you for the subclass 482 and 186. So you'll receive your visas and you will receive your permanent residency in very short time, like 2 to 3 years you will be getting your permanent residency. So this is also a very good method of migrating to Australia. So I've already mentioned the jobs in offshore, LNG, tugs, dredging, and even port operations are in demand in Australia. They're looking for people. And of course, as I've already mentioned, you need to obtain your COR and do the short course in Australia, even if any company sponsors you, because as I've already told, you need to have Australian COC or COR to work in Australia because they don't recognize international certificate. So if you are an experienced seafarer, you should consider this option as well. So in the upcoming time, I'll try to make videos on job scenarios for marine engineers in Australia, how you can obtain certificate of competency from AMSA and various other topics. So if you're a seafarer planning to migrate to Australia, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel Taz Marina for future updates. And don't forget to share it with your friends in the marine industry. Till then, goodbye and bon voyage.